Well, I guess, are you ready, Mr. Producer?
I'm not doing anything.
You ready for your close-up?
Are you ready, Mr. Price?
I am. What about you, Mr. Parsons?
I think I'm camera ready. Oh, well, there you get into your classic argument of, is it Plume or is it mold?
That's a great game show. Everybody might realize that I'm sitting here with no sleeves on. It's because it's 145 degrees outside, I think. Oklahoma is as close to the sun as it's probably ever been in its history.
Does it look okay?
Looks good to me.
Everything's good. We ought to just start this thing and just get it rolling. Hit the ground running, right?
Let's do it.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Smokey Guys. Here we are again. Looks like a little different locale, even though it's technically not.
You forgot to introduce yourself.
We
always introduce ourselves right up front.
Oh, yeah, but I thought we changed it up a little bit.
Well,
do things a little different for once.
Of course you want to do things different. We're smoking older cigars. You want to go back to the old way of doing things.
That's exactly what I was talking about. You know exactly what I'm doing. Hey, folks, I'm Kevin Price, one of the Smokey Guys.
And I'm CR Parsons, the other Smokey guy.
And, hey, you already brought it up. We're going to be talking about older cigars.
That's right. We're going to talk about aging cigars tonight.
Yeah.
At least that's one of the things we're going to talk about.
Well, yeah, we probably won't talk about aging ourselves, but we'll probably date ourselves at some point during this.
I don't like discussing that anymore. I am at that age where here's how bad it is. I got an invitation a while back to my 35th class reunion.
Okay.
35 years since high school.
Yeah.
People change 35 years out of high school.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Yeah, the guy that used to sell me weed in high school is now a sheriff.
Ooh.
Oh, he still sells me weed.
Oh, okay.
Just much better weed.
Didn't interrupt your chain.
much better weed. Apparently the impound gets the good stuff.
Yeah, we were talking just a little bit earlier today, I guess. We were talking with some of our buddies here at the Cigar Lounge about some of these movies that are being replayed at the theater now for value tickets or whatever.
Yeah.
And what was the one? Rain Man is 30 years old.
Rain Man's 35.
35 years old. Yeah.
35 because it came out the year I graduated.
My goodness, it's strange. Brew's 40, and
that one blew me away.
There's a whole lot of these. It's just really.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Strange Brew, like the little clips that they did on SCTV?
Yes.
Were you old enough to do that?
My dad, yeah, he raised us a little different. Probably in today's society, it was probably more about child abuse. But I remember seeing Live on the Sunset Strip with Richard Pryor when it first came out.
Okay.
So I was 5, 6 years old, probably.
So you grew up in one of those households.
I grew up in one of those houses where you got to experience things at a much more rapid pace than everybody else. But we also knew not to say stuff like that in public.
Right.
We understood.
I get that because I had a buddy by the name of Tony back when I was in elementary school, and I'd go over to Tony's house, and Tony's house was the house that we could watch anything. HBO, they had HBO way back in the day, and I remember watching Animal House as a little kid, way before I even got any of the jokes.
Oh yeah. I'd watch most of that stuff, and I'd be like, I don't know. Now I look back and think, oh my gosh, how funny was that? But,
right.
But we bring all that up to bring up the fact that, we are going to talk about older cigars. Now, we don't have anything quite as old as, say, like our buddy Jose Blanco over at Fuente has.
Right.
He will break out the 40 and 50-year-old cigars occasionally and rub it in on Instagram that he's getting to smoke those. And we won't be able to do that. But producer Kevin has graced us with some cigars.
Yes, he has.
We get to try out tonight and tell you what we think about them. They're a little bit older. I think you've got, what do you got over there?
This is a 2001.
2021, right?
2021.
Yeah.
Did I say 2001? I'm going way back.
Oh, Space Odyssey. See?
That's right. Movie. Another old movie we were talking about. Yes, 2001: A Space Odyssey. No, this is 2021 by RomaCraft. it's a barber pole of some kind. I'm not sure what. Do you know what the name on this one is?
I'll look it up.
Okay, the producer's going to look it up. See, we don't have producer Pete here to slyly hand me a
He
note.
can just slide you the note.
That's right.
Yeah.
But what are you smoking? Yours is older than this.
So yeah, this one I'm excited to get into. It is a 4-year-old Wanderlust.
Oh, nice.
So thank you, Kevin, for gracing this. And how'd you get these? This came straight from Germany. They're only available there, correct?
Keith brought it over
So
when he went to Oktoberfest.
Oh,
nice.
And so you're going to Oktoberfest before too long.
Yep.
Are you going to go where you can get some more of those?
Yes, I am going to get a box of those.
Very cool. Very cool. So we'll have
share with us.
Well,
we'll find out.
Maybe in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, right. He'll put them back, age them.
Yeah. No, aging is a big topic amongst cigar smokers.
Right.
Because there are some people who swear by aging, and some people are like, no, it doesn't matter. But there's a lot of different ideas when it comes to aging. Yeah. What's your opinion on aging? Have you aged very many cigars?
Yeah, and obviously different cigars have, I think, different characteristics of how well they age.
Right.
And I think the overwhelming thing is they typically will lose flavor the older they get. So you really don't want to. There's that point of going past.
There's a sweet spot, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's as much losing flavor as they mellow out and the flavors all kind of meld together.
Yeah.
And so you don't have the highs and lows as much as you have a more mellow smoke.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Do you think it takes it from, say, being a full body down to a medium? Does it mellow it in that way?
I don't know that it does. I think when I think of mellowing, I think of there are some cigars that have those little sharp notes, the highly spicy notes, those types of things. It kind of rounds those out.
Right.
Kind of like the way aging whiskey does.
Yeah.
You take a nice young whiskey, say something in the 5 to 7 year range, and it's going to have some peaks and some valleys that are very specific to it because it's young.
Yeah.
But as it ages, those will roll off, and it will be a more smooth drink without necessarily losing flavor or any of the components that you like about it.
Right, and that typically is on bourbons that happens.
Right.
Maybe some Irish, maybe.
Well,
I
and
think
definitely Scotch.
Yeah, Scotch is by far one of those. But it's funny because I think Scotch ages better than a bourbon does.
I agree.
I think you can, because once the bourbons I've drank that have been, say, 17 to 22 years old, yes, they were smooth, but they lacked something. Where you can get a 25 or even I've drank some 50-year-old Scotch that was just amazing.
Yeah.
Still tons of flavor and tons of layers there to pick apart and enjoy. Where I feel like bourbon, a lot of it, maybe sometimes it just gets too woody at a certain point.
Right.
It's like it just takes in too much of that. And it could be because, they're using new char barrels where Scotch is using old bourbon barrels typically or something.
True. Yeah, and I'm not saying it can't mellow out a cigar a little bit, but in my opinion, I don't find that it mellows them to a point that they change profile completely.
Yeah, I would say, because I've had some that were interesting cigars that I had when they were younger, and then aged them, and I went back and smoked them, remembering how much I loved the cigar, and was really disappointed.
Yeah.
It was just like, wow, that was underwhelming.
Yeah.
And I think it got past that point of whatever that finite point is.
Well, and sometimes the quality of the cigar makes a difference in how it's going to age.
Yeah.
Because a more premium cigar, a finer cigar, a cigar made with better tobacco, or tobacco that has been pre-aged and will just continue to age, will have a better long-term outcome from aging than something in the lesser range, something that's made with a lesser tobacco or a tobacco that has already, or maybe has been aged in just enough to make it smokable.
Yeah.
But its window is shorter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to borrow your cutter because I've got a straight cutter and this
That
little
is gonna be, yeah, you definitely want to V-cut that one. That'll be a great one.
that little, what do they call that? A pigtail?
Yeah.
Is that what they call that? That little pigtail cap just would not do well with my straight cutter.
Yeah. Well, I think the important thing about aging that we probably need to talk about a little bit is the conditions in which you age a cigar. Just taking a cigar and hanging on to it for 4 to 10 years or whatever it might be is probably not going to do it any favors if you don't keep it properly.
So you're telling me that the one I found in my glove box in my car from 3 years ago that I forgot to pull out when I got home isn't going to smoke well?
That one might take some work.
I tried it. I had one that did that. I don't know if you remember that. A few years back, I had a vehicle, and I went to sell the vehicle, and I was cleaning it out, and I opened up the glove box, and there in a little travel case, not a travel humidor, just a little travel case, sat 2 cigars.
Oh.
Luckily, they weren't anything to cry over.
Yeah.
They were just decent cigars. But I lit one up just to see, because I knew it was dry. I pulled it out, and it crackled as I rolled it through my fingers. So I knew it was dry. It was destroyed. But I just wanted to see. Yeah. And I lit that thing up, and you would have thought I lit a piece of paper.
Oh, I bet.
It was like one puff, and the cartoon where they take one big puff and it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it smoked
and your
like.
teeth looked like you've been dipping Copenhagen.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you cut it, tobacco just had to go everywhere.
Oh yeah, it did. It shredded.
But yeah, I think if you have a great humidor that you keep at a constant temperature and humidity, you're going to stand a chance of aging a cigar much better than if you have fluctuations in either of those things.
Absolutely.
And then also, it's also kind of like the other important thing is what do you store it by? Because if storing it by other cigars, it can pick up flavors from those cigars.
Absolutely.
And so you definitely don't want to, a lot of people understand you don't put flavored cigars into, you try to keep those separated as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that is something important people probably need to know.
Now, where do you keep your humidor?
So I have...
Not physically, like what temperature, what percentage?
I was going to say, I have my really good cigars in one of the, what looks like a mini fridge, like kind of wine fridge looking ones. And I keep that at 69% humidity all the time. It doesn't fluctuate much from there. And it stays right around 70 degrees.
Okay.
I've had it higher, lower, but I've found that seems to be that perfect range for my house. Because the temperatures of your house affect the humidor as well.
Absolutely.
The humidity in your house affects the humidor. There's so many things that can outside influences, I guess, can change them. Sure. What about you?
I read years ago, and I have stuck by the 70 and 70 rule.
Yep.
My goal is to stay within a couple of degrees or percentage points of 70, with 70% humidity and 70 degrees. I think I could probably go a little warmer, but I definitely don't want to drop below 68 or so in humidity. And what was explained to me eons ago when it comes to storing cigars is think about where they come from and the conditions in which they are grown and stored and created.
Right.
And that is all on that equatorial line right around the equator. And so you want something that mimics that.
Yeah.
In fact, I was talking to a guy who lives down in not Hawaii, lives down in Miami, and he said half the time he'll just leave his cigars on the counter.
Right.
Because granted, it gets hot there, but their humidity balances out. And he said he's never had a problem storing cigars, just simply because that's where they come from.
Yeah. Speaking of getting hot, I'm gonna go off topic for just a short second. Everybody might realize that I'm sitting here with no sleeves on.
Mm.
It's because it's 145 degrees outside, I think. Oklahoma is as close to the sun as it's probably ever been in its history.
Yeah, no kidding.
It is ridiculously stifling hot outside.
Yeah, we have a high humidity and a high heat right now. And it's like walking out, not into a blast furnace, but into a crock pot.
Yeah.
That's on and has been on for days.
Yeah, so my sleeves burned off this shirt earlier. Stayed out the sun too long, and they just went away. But no, back to topic here.
Yeah.
But what do you? I guess this needs to be informational. I understand some of this stuff, but we're gonna go ahead and play that like I don't know what's going on type of thing. What happens if you get too much humidity in the air? What can happen to these cigars?
Oh, well, there you get into your classic argument of, is it plume or is it mold?
That's a great game show.
Oh, that on some of the cigar groups that I'm part of, that is an almost daily occurrence of somebody posting a picture and going, is it plume or is it mold? And I have had some cigars mold. It has happened. And it sucks because you really don't want to smoke those.
Right.
You really don't want to smoke a moldy cigar. But I've also had cigars that I've stored long enough that they got a little plume on them. And really what that is that's the oils coming to the surface and settling and effectively drying.
Yeah.
And so you end up with these little almost crystalline white spots on your cigars. And the big difference that was explained to me was if you wipe your cigar and it wipes off, that's mold.
Yeah.
If you wipe your cigar and it doesn't wipe off and it looks a little sharper, mold looks a little fuzzy around the edges.
Yeah.
Not really fuzzy, but it's not as clear-cut a line around it as the plume would be.
Okay.
So that's the way it was always explained to me to tell the difference.
And plume is safe to smoke.
Absolutely, and plume can be wonderful because those oils are what gives a lot of the flavor and a lot of the profile to these things. And when they age like that, they can be fascinating and interesting flavor-wise.
Well, I've made the mistake when I first got into cigars and had a couple of humidors that I had going at the time and was doing the whole distilled water thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them came with a tray that you fill with the water. And so, I mean, if there's room in the tray, by gosh, I fill it to the top, stick it in there, and kind of forget about it.
Right.
And I did that with a batch of cigars that were unwrapped. And I came back and it looked like cheese that had been left out for 3 or 4 weeks.
That hurts too.
Yeah, it looked
that
like
hurts.
penicillin.
Yeah.
But I had to throw those away and didn't see anything on the inside of the humidor that posed any issue or anything. But that humidor in particular, I used to fight it whenever I first got it. I'd fight the humidity issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this. Since that happened, that must have seasoned it perfect because that thing stays at 72, no problem.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is spot on, doesn't move.
Oh wow.
It's the weirdest thing, but it must have just really, really seasoned the hell out of that wood.
I have a love-hate relationship with humidors. I have years ago I struggled so much with my humidors. I quit storing cigars in humidors.
Yeah.
If I couldn't find a shop nearby that would let me store cigars in the shop, or wouldn't let me, or I didn't have a membership option. I would literally buy a cigar every time I went in, as opposed to storing them myself, because I had so much trouble maintaining a humidor. Now that was pre-Boveda existing.
Right. That has changed the game.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you the other thing that's really, really changed is the hygrometers.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you can get these off, online from Amazon or whoever like the little Govees that their Bluetooth connect to your phone.
Yeah.
And so I've got those in every humidor. Now I can, at the flip of a switch, just tell exactly where I'm at. They do a great job, and it allows you to have real-time access to accurate information.
Absolutely. Now yours is over the internet, isn't it?
Yes.
You can do it from anywhere.
Pull it up right here and now, and I can see exactly what they are.
Yeah, and I know they've got some that are just Bluetooth, so you have to be within a range.
Right.
Either works. I mean, depends on how often you're gone for lengths of time.
And I travel, as we both do, quite a bit. It's nice to be able to look at it because thanks to Boveda, I can then call my wife and say, hey, hon, go throw a couple packs in there or whatever you need to do just to get it back where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
And it'll keep it till I get home and can mess with it a little bit more.
Yeah. Yep, and that's so important. If you're going to age cigars at all, you've got to have a good, well maintained humidor of some kind, even if it's a Tupperware.
Yeah. Even
if it's just a Tupperware container that you keep Boveda packs
or
in.
Chinese takeout container. We've seen that happen.
We have. We had a buddy who spent a year and a half carrying around an old Chinese takeout box because it closed down well enough that he could maintain it, and we gave him such a hard time.
Well, how do you feel? Have you had that cigar before now?
Yes, I have had this cigar previous to now, when it would have been younger. And flavor-wise, I'm not picking up a whole lot of difference. It's definitely more mellow. It's a smoother smoke than it would have been at the time. The biggest thing is it's oddly a little bit stiffer, which is unusual for aged cigars. A lot of time aged cigars get a little softer.
This one is that. It's kind of a little spongier, if you will. But I'll say this. I have had Wanderlust before, and I think this one's right in that sweet spot for it. It is phenomenal. It's smoking phenomenal. The flavor is... Obviously, I was in fear that it would diminish some and like I say, smooth out, but yet also reduce the potency of it. And I really, like I say, so far I know I'm not a long way in, but it sure is smoking great.
Yeah. Well, and I'm having to clear my own head games with this one right now because I have been smoking the Asylum 13, that barber pole one that they have that's Candela and Maduro. And this one is a natural in Maduro. So when I look at it and when I pull on it, I'm half expecting it to have that Candela flavor because that's what I've been smoking so much of lately. So I'm having to remind myself that this is not a Candela.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, so if people were getting interested in like maybe aging some of their own cigars, and the different like stages of aging, because like this is 4 years old, it's probably considered kind of a long-term aged process.
Right.
Where, say that one's 2?
Yeah, this one's right at 2, so it would be considered a medium length aging. I think, and I'm not 100% sure that these are accurate. I don't know that there is an accurate, because you talk to somebody like Jose, he's going to tell you long term is in decades, not in years, but in decades. But I think for most people, a short aged cigar would be in the realm of months. Month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months.
A lot of times you do that just because you may get it and you can feel that, well, maybe I need to let this one go a little longer. Maybe it wasn't held quite properly, or it's just not to the the stiffness or something that you like, or
you may just want to experiment.
Sometimes see what happens.
Sometimes that's worth doing. Sometimes experimentation is good.
Or sometimes you put it in the back of your humidor and you forget
that too.
You've got it.
That too.
I pulled one out the other day. I was like, I don't remember buying this cigar. Someone had to give it to me. Now I'm sure I bought it at some point, threw it in the back of the humidor, and literally just flat forgot about it.
Right. But yeah, so you've got short term, which would be anywhere from months to a year. You've got a medium length aging, which would be that 1 to 3 year range. And theoretically, anything over 3 years is considered a long term aging.
Gotcha.
And so this one's right on that borderline between mid and long term. That one is definitely what I would consider a long term.
Right. I'm enjoying it so far. And the other cool thing, like we've talked about, we've had a buddy that's done this where he got some cigars. He thought he got a great deal on them. We talked about it and kind of explained to him that that typically that's not a great cigar and this and that. But what you can do with some of those, besides aging them a little bit to give them a little more character, you can also infuse them.
That is very true. That is very true.
Like stick them in, like you say, like a Tupperware container with a shot glass of your favorite liquor,
favorite whiskey of some kind,
or some kind of, or flavored. If you want to go the flavored route,
if you want to go the flavored route,
you can experiment with them and leave them in there for a few months. Do a short-term aging process on them.
Absolutely,
and they should pick up all those notes, and you may like it. You may like the cigar a lot better.
Yeah, well, and I've known people who would buy a box of cigars specifically to try them at different ages. They would buy them by the box so that they could smoke 5 of them soon, and then they'd let the others sit. Now, here's a question for you, since you mentioned finding cigars in the back of your humidor. Do you mark your cigars when you put them in your humidor?
I don't, and I should, because I should know that proper rotation would probably actually help even out the aging process, just like you do with anything else.
Absolutely.
And I'm guilty of not doing that because, as you know, I've got way too many cigars. Well, not that you can ever have too many cigars.
No, you can't have too many cigars.
I have a lot of cigars, and sometimes I just lose track of which humidors they're in. It's like I'll go looking for one because I know I've got it.
Right.
And I don't keep a constant inventory because I don't. Like I've got a foot locker that I keep a lot in, especially a lot of boxes and stuff. And it's like, well, I don't get in there very often, and then when I do, it's like Christmas all over again. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's that box I got 3 years ago at an event.
Yeah,
that's so nice. I was really looking forward to smoking one of those.
Well, see, you still have a memory. You can remember what you did. My home humidor gets rotated fairly regularly.
Yeah.
Mainly because I just can't bring myself to let things sit in there. I smoke them.
Yeah.
But my humidor here, our lockers, which you can kind of see behind us, we decided to change our shot tonight. My locker has some older stuff because I'm willing to let it sit in here.
Right.
Number one, I know this is well maintained.
Yeah.
Extremely well maintained. But I wouldn't remember when I got cigars half the time. I've got cigars in there now that I go, I don't have a clue where this came from or when I got it.
Yeah.
Now, I do know, producer, now you mark your cigars when you get them in, don't you?
I used to, but I don't as much as I should.
Do you not?
I'm rubbing off on you.
There was a time that I tried to.
Yeah.
And but yeah.
You know what I just realized?
What's that?
With these new microphones, we may not be able to hear him at all.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So we could be having this conversation and they have no clue what he's saying.
We could make him say whatever the heck we wanted to.
You can just put it on the screen.
That's
and
right.
That'd be great.
Right.
Well, I wonder if leaving a cigar in a wrapper as you age it changes it. You know what I mean? So I think being without the wrapper, without the wrapper, if you have a bunch of them in there, those oils will migrate from one cigar to the other.
They would.
I wonder if the wrapper would maybe protect it a little bit, or if it would change.
To some extent, I know the cellophane wrappers are permeable.
Yeah.
Because that's why you can leave your cigars in the cellophane wrappers when you throw them in your humidor. Otherwise, you would need to remove them from every one of them.
I've noticed a weird thing about a wrapper on the older cigars that I've got in there. If I pull one out that has a wrapper on it, it seems as though the color of the cigar has changed.
And the color of the wrapper has changed.
Yes, exactly.
I noticed that the other day with one I pulled out that was a little older, but it was also one that I know is a very oily cigar.
Yeah.
But I happen to have a newer one that I had purchased of that exact same cigar, and when I pulled it out of the wrapper had begun to brown a little bit.
Yeah.
And the new one, the wrapper was still perfectly crystal clear.
Yeah.
So that tells you that there is some breathing going on with those cigars.
Get some of those Cat 5s from LFD and age some of those and just see what happens.
They're
very oily cigars.
They are very oily cigars and delicious cigars.
I'll grab some and mark them and figure out what happens. And maybe age, and we can bring that back up on the podcast at some point. Maybe I'll age one, do a short aging, do a long age, or, a medium and then a long. Assuming we carry this on for the next 4 years.
Hey, you never know.
We hope.
We hope so. We hope you guys will watch us that long. Now, I like playing with that idea with older cigars and aging them and letting them carry on. Now, I know a lot of manufacturers pre-age their tobacco significantly. We were just talking earlier this evening about the fires over in Hawaii and what would happen to the cigar market if something like that were to happen to
Dominican or somewhere.
To one of our big cigar manufacturers. And the initial impact would not be as much as you would think, other than the price going up.
Right.
Because they have tobacco oftentimes sitting in warehouses aging for 3, 5, 7 years before they ever make a cigar out of it. So there is usually some pre-aging that has occurred.
Assuming the warehouses don't burn down.
Right.
As part of that whole thing, it's on an island. There's really nowhere to go.
True. Very true.
If it gets out of control,
very true.
Then you may be having some serious issues. But yeah, and we send out, our ton of prayers to those folks out there, what they're having to deal with. I don't want to make light of anything like that.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Because that is a big tragedy that I can't even fathom.
Yeah, it just seems like an absolute cluster.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened over there. The rumor mill is, the rumor mill's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's
some of the stories of what people have claimed is ridiculous. But I do know that is an area that the native population had managed to hold on to a lot of property.
Yeah.
And you talk about some property that has some real value.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. There are people that would pay big bucks for that property.
Not that you're a conspiracy theorist or anything, I don't think. I don't see where you're going with this.
Occasionally I will tiptoe into conspiracy just because it's only a conspiracy until it's proven true.
That's true. Yeah.
What was it we were talking about earlier? That movie, They Live.
Yeah.
That's one that is aging. When did it come out? It had to have been 87, 88, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite wrestlers of all time,
Roddy.
Rowdy Piper. Absolutely, I loved Rowdy Piper. Partially because he wore a kilt, and I've always been fascinated with kilts and Scottish things.
Well, let's get into giving some folks some tips on how they can age cigars. Just kind of it's just really reiterating what we've already talked about, but just kind of laying it out there of how they can do it effectively, and some maybe some pointers if we can think of some other new stuff just to throw at them. But I think rotating is a big
rotating is vital.
Keeping a properly seasoned and well maintained humidor, temperature, humidity.
Mm-hmm. I would say marking your cigars in some way. If they're still in cellophane, put a little something on there that tells you when you bought it or when you started aging it.
Keep a log.
Keep a log.
You know what? I was going to say, one of the guys on this show has created a log that is available on Amazon for, how much is that thing?
I think it's $10.
It's like $10. You can get on Amazon, you can find a log book And what is it called again?
The
Working Man's
The Working Man Cigar, the Cigar Journal for a Working Man for the work. If you look up CR Parsons, you will find it on there, because I can't remember the exact title, but it's on there under my name on Amazon.
But that'd be a great way to keep track of cigars.
It really is.
You could project how far do you want to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep track of when you put it in there, and then you kind of have an idea of.
Well, and it's got a place for all your tasting notes,
Right.
and so you can actually compare apples to apples.
Right.
You can say, hey, I had this one right after I bought the box, or right after I bought a handful of these cigars. 6 months later, I had the exact same cigar. Here's what I think changed.
Yeah.
And you've got your notes so that you can look back on that. Because, oh my gosh, I have smoked thousands of cigars over my lifetime. And I wish I could remember and had kept up with more of that.
Right. I'm guilty. I used to try to keep track in my phone. I've got different apps that they've created over time, and I think like a journal like that is just something more tactile that I can, of course we're old school. We probably appreciate stuff like that. I appreciate the feel of a newspaper reading it.
I do,
even though I may not like the news in it anymore.
Right.
I kind of like I still like the cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a cartoon fan.
Well, we talked a little bit about how cigars look and feel when they're aged, but we didn't really go into that. I know when they age, the oils move around, and oftentimes they will look a little less dramatic. You get a nice Maduro. It has that nice dark color to it. As they age, they will sometimes lighten up a little bit as those oils move and move around within the cigar. So that's one way you can tell a true aged cigar. Is if you know it's a naturally very dark cigar and it seems to be a little lighter, or if it's a natural cigar but the binder and filler are a little stronger tobacco, it could get a little darker and it could change in that way. But you usually find that they're a little softer to look at. They don't have that sheen that you get with new cigars.
They look drier.
They do.
In some cases they're not, but yeah, that's the importance of proper humidity. You don't want to, because aging a cigar is much different than drying out a cigar.
Right. Very different. Very different. That is very true. And like I said, oftentimes, in fact, most of the time, as you age a cigar, it will feel a little softer.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the cause of that is, because I don't think any of the tobacco goes away. I don't think it's like whiskey, where there's an angel share of the tobacco.
I don't think there's an angel share on tobacco.
But I do know that they have a tendency to feel a little softer, can be a little more squishy, which is not always a bad thing.
No, I think it's, we're talking about bound tobacco leaves here, and as they sit, and again, temperature changes, stuff like that, they're going to expand and contract.
Yeah.
Depending on fluctuations in humidity, temperature, but they're not going to. They start off at their tightest. They're always going to loosen.
They're going to relax.
Exactly, relax. It's a great term. And I feel like that's kind of what this one has. It's got just a nice little. It's kind of like cooking a steak to a rare, like a rare, medium rare.
Mm-hmm.
If you know how to feel that palm of your hand and know where to push, it's kind of that way. You can also kind of give it just a touch, and you kind of get an idea of, okay, this one's not a brand new cigar.
Right.
That's not that filler is not as tight as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, it's a wonderful cigar.
It is. This is.
Oh wait, this is an awful cigar. Do you have any more of these? I think this just. It's all research.
If you want to get rid of them,
I'm going to do this for science. Okay,
that's right.
It's not.
We have been very informative this podcast.
We
hadn't talked about much about what's going on in our lives.
We normally do that but again, we're trying to do things different this time. I was really trying to spin this a little different way.
Trying to be a bit more mature about our podcasting.
While we're talking about, aging, I last Wednesday, which this will come out this week sometime. So, last Wednesday I got a chance to go see some bands from my past. I actually got to go work security for some bands that I grew up watching. So they've definitely aged.
Yes, they have.
Some better than others.
Some aged like wine and others aged like milk.
Exactly. But we had here in Tulsa, we had a really cool event come through, and they didn't hit a whole lot of stadiums, but Alice Cooper, Motley Crue, and Def Leppard came and played a show to, I'm going to say there was probably 22,000-ish, maybe 24,000 folks inside of the University of Tulsa football stadium.
That stadium was pretty full. I saw some drone footage, and it did not look like there were a whole lot of empty spots.
No, it was a really, really cool event. And I know the stadium itself, I don't think, has hosted a concert in like 10 years. I mean, it's been over a decade since somebody was in there. I can't remember who the last person was. I know the last show I saw in that stadium was Blues Traveler when they were at their peak.
Oh, wow.
So if that tells you how long ago that was.
Yeah, that's been a while.
It's been a minute. John Popper was at his peak as well. He was well fed, and he had like 80 harmonicas on. That was a great show. But this show was really cool, and I was looking forward to it because I saw, whenever I was growing up, I saw Motley Crue on almost every tour. I think the only one I didn't see was Shout at the Devil when they first really got started. But after that, I think I hit every tour that they ever had. If it was anywhere near me, I went and saw them. So,
absolutely.
I got to see Tommy Lee's crazy drum kits that went in the air and all. Did not happen this time.
He's too old for that.
Probably fear of a broken hip or something. But I tell you, the guy that really blew me away. So the lineup was Allison Cooper Allison Cooper. I was like Alice in Chains, Alice Cooper,
Allison Krauss.
I was just all over the place here. Alice Cooper came out first, which was odd. See him in the daylight at 5:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, they started at retirement center time.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, 5:30 in the afternoon to start a show. That's ridiculous.
You hit Luby's. You have the, you have the early bird special.
The Luann play.
Yeah, you had the Luann platter. Then you go play a show. Actually, Alice was playing golf over at Southern Hills before his show.
Oh, not surprising at all, considering how much of a golfer
he is.
He's
like a 5 handicap. Yeah. He's an amazing golfer.
He's a ridiculously good golfer.
But I tell you what, he's still an amazing performer. I was working in front of the stage, so I didn't get to see a whole lot except for the part of the stage that jutted out. So whenever he would walk out or the band would walk out, I could see that part. But my job was to obviously watch the crowd and make sure that nobody, got into a fight or missed their Metamucil or whatever. It was an aging crowd, but it was a great crowd. But man, Alice just tore it up.
Which does not surprise me in the slightest. That man, he is an amazing artist, and you talk about somebody who completely understands theater.
Oh yeah.
He gets the theater of the performance. Yeah. And it doesn't hurt that he always has an amazing and hot guitarist,
female guitar player.
Yeah. How many great female guitar players has he worked with over the years?
I don't know, but man, Strauss is amazing. She is a phenomenal picker. Whether it be, I'd put her up against most guys, and she would just shred them.
Oh, absolutely.
She's so good.
She is amazing.
But yeah, that band sounded so good, so tight. He played all the hits, everything you could want him to play. He played. Threw out a cane to the crowd. I mean, all the little things he normally does. Just amazing show.
You mean he didn't give the cane to lead singer from Motley Crue?
Vince Neil.
Yeah.
No,
Vince needs it at this point.
He could have given him some vocal lessons. I mean, Alice is 75 years old and still can belt out those songs just spot on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he did great. Then Motley came out next. and their new guitar player John Five. Holy mackerel!
I heard good things about that.
Oh.
They said that instead of bringing the whole band out at once, John came out first and kind of laid down some licks to kind of say, guess what, motherfuckers, I'm here. Mick's not, but I'm here, and we're gonna do this.
Which, I mean, I always loved Mick. I mean, growing up as a guitar player, I hate that age just caught up to him the way it has.
Mm-hmm.
But and I don't want to take anything away from those albums that he recorded and the all-time great songs that he played on.
Absolutely.
But I tell you, John is a heck of a compliment and drives that band like none other. He just that was worth seeing, and I wish I could have watched more of his playing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it, he was standing right behind me playing to the crowd. Only got to turn around once or twice, just a quick glimpse, just to get a good look at that cool Fender, that signature Fender of his, white with the red pickups and Fender Telecaster that just looks amazing. But yeah, he did phenomenal. Tommy's great on drums as always. I couldn't tell if Nicky was playing, but I assume there was bass. There's something was going on. I've heard all the rumors.
There are a lot of rumors about Nicky.
But he doesn't look like he's aged at all.
Not actually playing or singing when they perform live.
I mean, he looks. I was shocked at how young he still looked.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just there having a good time, and they did their normal Motley Crue thing where they come out and ask girls to take their shirts off and all that stuff, which is odd because I think some of their wives were there.
With their audience age range, wouldn't they be asking them to pull their skirts up?
Yeah, exactly.
I would, because that's about where they're hanging these days.
Some of that was very true. I think Tommy was more shocked at how many men were willing to show off their man-maries.
Man-maries.
But it was cool. Vince's voice wasn't great. I mean, he missed a lot of notes, and it was not the Motley Crue I've seen in years past.
Right.
And I didn't expect it to be, but they did their thing. They played all the hits, all the songs you want. Did great. Then Def Leppard came up, and Def Leppard put on a phenomenal show. Joe Elliott's voice was spot on. Phil Collin on guitar, just shredding. And
last time I saw them, and it hadn't been that long ago, I saw them. I was thoroughly impressed with how well they did. Now the only thing was Joe could not hit some of those high notes that he used to hit. But my gosh, he was a 20-something kid, and Mutt was pushing him to the nth degree to hit those notes to begin with.
Yeah. So he can't do those, but I'm going to say his voice was still really, really good.
Yeah.
And Vivian Campbell, like I say, the whole band was great.
Oh,
I mean,
Vivian's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. I'm sorry. That man's 70-something years old. And he could kick my ass today.
Well, Phil Collin.
Phil's also,
Phil's ripped. He's just not wearing a shirt. He's out there just like,
Does Phil own a shirt?
I don't think he
does.
Have
you ever seen Phil in a shirt?
Never.
I have never seen Phil in a shirt.
But they rounded out the show, and they kind of closed the show, if you will. And they did all the hits, but they also played a lot of new stuff.
Really?
And some stuff that they wrote during COVID and recorded. And I thought those songs they really stood up.
That's ballsy.
Oh yeah.
Considering their audience is there to see their catalog.
Yeah. At this point, you're supposed to be playing the greatest hits and nothing else.
Right. And so that's ballsy, but I'm glad it worked for them.
Yeah. And I think the mix is how you gave a whole lot of what they know up front, then put in some of these songs that they may not have known. I say that a lot of the people that were standing in front of me knew the lyrics to the newer songs.
Oh,
so
really?
That was cool also to realize that there is still a lot of fans out there that will go seek out the new albums and learn them, and we're not screaming at them like Homer Simpson in that one episode. Play the song we like. No, play the part of the song that we like.
Right. That one part, that one solo.
Play it over and over. But no, it was cool. And I was really ecstatic to be able to be there and see it. And I was thankful because I don't get asked to work a lot of shows because we're usually busy. We got our own shows, we got our own things going on. But this was middle of the week, and the security team reached out and said, "Hey, man, you want to come hang out and do this?" I was like, "Oh yeah."
Very cool.
And I knew my chances of having to like throw anybody out were pretty limited because again, I don't know that there were a lot of people that could have got over that railing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a tall steel rail. I felt pretty comfortable behind there.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
What about you? Did you have anything cool going on this week?
I did a comedy show Saturday night that is one of my favorite shows to do. One of my favorite locally produced shows. Yeah. It's a Dungeons and Dragons based comedy show called Saving Throw Comedy.
Okay.
And it's very much there's a lot of improvisation that goes into it. Basically, the idea is you are on a campaign with your other comedians that are on the show, and there's a little story that begins the whole thing, and then they bring up a comedian, and the comedian rolls a D20. Granted, it's about the size of a beach ball. But it's a D20 dice.
What's a D20? You're losing me here.
Are you not a nerd?
Oh, I'm a nerd.
I thought you were an old
I'm not a
nerd.
cloak-wearing nerd.
Oh, well, see, I'm a cloak-wearing nerd.
Okay.
I would wear a cape if I were allowed to in public. I would be one of those
D&D.
weird kids.
I knew people that did.
Yeah.
I personally never did, and never got into it. Maybe it's just never, exposed to that kind of thing.
Well, to put it simply, a D20 is a 20-sided dice.
I wonder how that would work in craps.
It would
House
make
advantage would go way up.
Way up. Actually, it might not, because I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I'd have to do the math on that, because 7 would mean nothing on a couple of D20 dice. That would be interesting to do the math on. But you roll a D20, and depending on what you roll, you either get a damage or a benefit. Okay. And the damage can be anything from having to sword fight with a troll, or literally pool noodle sword fight, while trying to do your stand-up comedy.
Okay.
Or you may get a benefit where the audience is told that no matter what you say, they are required to act like it's the greatest thing they've ever heard and give you a standing ovation. And so it's a lot of fun. But here's the funny part, and that is, so you go up, you do a couple of minutes of comedy, you roll the die, you do a couple minutes, you roll the die, you do a couple of minutes. So you have several opportunities to have either damage or benefits. Yeah. If you roll a 1, you're just done, because that's the lowest thing you can roll.
Okay.
If you roll a 20, you get the greatest benefit possible, which is like the audience cheering for everything you say. So I go up first, and the first thing I do is roll a 1. So I'm done. I'm done for the night. And so I go back to my seat, and they figure out some way to resurrect me in the story. And so I go back up, and I roll the die again, and guess what I rolled? Another 1. So then I'm just done. I'm just done. Which wouldn't have been bad. Wouldn't have been bad. That's the way the show goes. It's what happens. Other than the fact that about a third of the room was there to see me.
Oh yeah.
They had come because they had seen me advertise the show, and they were there specifically to see me. And so the producer of the show walked over to me at some point, and he goes, "We got to figure out how to resurrect you again, because I think the audience is going to revolt if we don't." So I got to go back up at the end, and it was a blast. That is always the most fun show, because you just let loose and have fun with it. The audience has fun with it. It's very interactive. It's a great show.
But I know the producer, so I'll say that to say that there's no way that this probably could have happened. But I've also seen a lot of the comics that or comedians. I should gotta be careful how I word this, but I've seen some where their greatest benefit would have been to roll the dice, get a 20. The greatest benefit would have been to bring you back up and take their place.
Well, I appreciate that. Everybody's on their own path.
Okay.
Oh,
that's a nice way to put it.
No, that's an honest way to put it. I I have recently gone back through to try to clean up some old hard drives and stuff like that, and found some old video of me when I first started. Oh my gosh, I was terrible. And I don't mean I wasn't good. I was terrible. And what's sad is I thought I was doing well.
Yeah.
Because I'd get one or two good laughs in a 5-minute set. And I thought, I'm like, this is awesome. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I go back and I rewatch that, and it's painful. Painful to watch. But it's kind of like any artistic endeavor.
Yeah.
If you went back and listened to your old tapes sitting around your room playing guitar from 30 years ago, you'd have the same feeling.
Yeah, well, actually, it's kind of weird because I've talked to other singer-songwriters about this, but I'm one of those weird people that I really can't stand to hear myself on tape or anything else.
Yeah, that's not that weird.
And it's like anything else. If I watched even what somebody tells me, oh, that's your best performance yet, I could probably watch it on tape and be like, no, I don't feel so, I don't like that. It's just, I don't know what it is. And so, recording an album or something is really hard for me when we have to listen to playbacks. I'm sitting there going, no, I don't like it. I want something different. And it's like, I just have to trust, producers and stuff to go, no, that's fine. You're good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I don't see. We've got a buddy who just made a film that I think they're going to send to Sundance this year, and I don't know how he goes through that editing process and rewatches and rewatches and edits and rewatches again and edits and rewatch. That would drive me nuts to do that. I mean, it's bad enough I have to edit this stuff.
Yeah. But you and I were very lucky because we got to see a private screening, and he said it was okay to mention, as long as we made sure we mentioned it was a private screening. There was nobody getting paid to be there. It was not open to the public. It was a super exclusive private screening that we got to see of this movie, and if you can sit through that and not be changed as a person, I would be shocked. You probably need to go get some help, because and we will talk about it once it comes out.
Absolutely.
And hopefully maybe even have him on to talk about it some.
That would be
He's not a guy that talks a whole lot, so we may have to bring like the producer, some people on. But, we may have them both, and we can talk about it then. But it's one of those movies that it really does. I jokingly said it was an hour and 37 minutes. We cried for an hour and 35. And when you have a whole, a very small group of tough guys watching a movie, and we've all got tears in our eyes and trying not to show that we're crying, that says something. But it tells a story that I think everybody needs to hear.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I know we're teasing this horribly, considering we're not going to tell you what the movie is or anything about it, but give us a little bit. Give us some time. Accepted, if it gets
maybe
accepted,
a month or so from now, we can talk about it.
We'll be able to talk about it, and if you guys get a chance to see it, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it.
How's that cigar treating you over there?
Very good, very good. It's a slow smoke. I don't remember the fresher version being this slow of a smoke.
Yeah.
So that may be something that the aging had to do with. But it's great flavor. It is a little mellower than I remember it. It's a little smoothed out. It's not changed completely, but it's kind of rounded.
Yeah. I was going to say this one, I feel like the flavors, because I remember the first one I had, and I think this one has come together, if you will, to where all those flavors have you pick them up, but they're so subtle in the transition. There's not like this, this first third was very earthy, and then you got some pepper in the second and all that. It almost is kind of like it's been very consistent throughout.
Really,
like that has kind of, it's all kind of melded and changed for the good, if that makes sense.
I compare it to making a stew.
Yeah.
Because you make a stew, and the first day it's delicious. You've got all your flavors in there. Everything works. But let that stew sit in the crock pot overnight, and then eat it again tomorrow. Or chili's the same way.
Yeah.
Let it sit in that crock pot, and then try it again tomorrow. And everything has melded and joined, and all of the flavors are still there, but now they're working together a little more instead of being individual high spots.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the best way to describe these. At least for this one, it's definitely just kind of all come together. And man, I highly suggest doing that with these, because I think it's a great cigar. It's a great cigar to begin with.
Yeah,
I just think it's gotten even better.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're drinking Buffalo Trace tonight.
Yes.
Which,
from our good friends at Buffalo Trace. If you ever want to sponsor us, I could use it, because it's kind of hard to get here in Oklahoma sometimes.
It is. I had a coffee earlier with some Buffalo Trace the bourbon cream, which is one of my favorite ways to have coffee.
Because I don't drink, what do you call it? Whenever I drink pop or soda, depending on what part of the country you're from, I drink Dr. Pepper.
Coke.
So everything to me was a Dr. Pepper.
It's Coke.
Okay.
I'm a Southern boy. Okay. Everything's a Coke.
Everything was Dr. Pepper to me. And it didn't matter if we went somewhere, it was Dr. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
But bourbon cream, I was told that the best thing to mix that Buffalo Trace bourbon cream with was root beer.
I can see that.
So I don't drink it. If you still drink Coke, root beer,
I still drink root beer occasionally.
Grab some and try that, and let me know what you think, because I've heard that's just phenomenal.
I think it would taste a lot like a adult float.
Right, probably. And that might get me to break my 9-year streak of not having drank any soda pop whatsoever. Yeah, but I don't know if I could, but that might be the thing to do it.
Well,
What are you drinking? Yeah, that I can't even tell what that is.
I'm trying something new. Producer Pete, who's not here tonight, had this and asked me to give it a try.
I like how producer Schultz is over there shaking his head. We have to have a producer. Some people don't stay up late enough. He does.
But I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Oishi whiskey?
I believe it is Oishi.
It's a Japanese whiskey of some kind. I don't know if you can read that or not, or even see it. But it is sherry cask finished. Yeah. It's distilled in Japan, and I don't think Pete was overly impressed with it. He
has a complex palate. He drinks a lot of great whiskeys.
He does, and there was some note in there that he was not particularly fond of. So he told me to give it a try and tell him what I thought of it. I'll be honest, it's got a sherry finish. Other than that, it's a little insipid. There's not a whole lot there. If you told me this was an Irish whiskey finished in a sherry cask, I'd go, well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying bad things about Irish whiskey. Before people start commenting and posting and griping, I love my Jameson, and I'm okay with Bushmills, but
you can drink two of them or do and meet them both halfway.
That's true. But let's be honest. If you're comparing Irish whiskey to, say, Scotch, it's night and day.
Yeah.
This is like an Irish whiskey with a sherry finish. So there's not a whole lot there beyond the sherry finish. Gotcha. But I like it. It's good. It's very light, very very easy drink.
Yeah, very drinkable.
Oh yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I just had to go with it was this or Bullet Rye in my locker. So.
Oh yeah.
You got Buffalo Trace tonight.
There we go.
It's time for me to restock.
Yep, it is about time for you to restock. I think we're getting toward the end. Oh, we have a producer's note.
One thing I was going to mention is, like you guys were talking about, the Bovita packs. It's
yes.
a game changer, and I totally agree with that. a lot of new people will take those, and once they become like a little cracker, they'll throw them away. But you can rehydrate those if you put it in like a Tupperware or something sealed.
Yes.
With a cup of distilled water, leave it in there for like 30 days or whatever, and they will puff right back up.
Absolutely.
And you can rotate those back and forth.
In case that couldn't be heard,
Yeah.
he was talking about the Boveda packs and rehydrating them once they become dry. And I have done that a million times. What's beautiful about them is they state on them how many grams they were to start with.
Right.
So most of the standard ones are 60 grams unless you get one of the big
320s.
packs. Yeah,
Yeah.
320s or what have you. But you can use that, weigh it, subtract that from your original 60 grams, and you know exactly how much water it needs to add to it. And the reason I mention that is because you can overdo.
Oh yeah.
Because I have done that. Because when I first started rehydrating Boveda packs, I wasn't putting them in a Tupperware with a glass of water. I was just pouring the water into a Ziploc bag and storing
And
them.
believe it or not, that actually works great too.
It does.
They dry right back out as far as the outside of them.
And that's really when you know they're ready to be reused,
Yeah.
is when the outside is dry again.
But I've had some, you're right, I probably had a little too much of the trace and filled the bag up, and next thing I knew I had a bunch of footballs in there because they were just puffed up.
Puffed up
It was
huge.
great though. They still work.
They do. But that is a great thing about them is they have the weight right there on it, so you can make those measurements and rehydrate them, and that is a good thing about them. Now that is not something they market.
They do not market that
So,
or support that.
Yeah, so if you have problems with them
You're on your
after
own.
you've rehydrated them, you're on your own. Yeah.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, and I would recommend if you're going to rehydrate them, don't let them get fully dry, because they will. It's harder for them to rehydrate. Even when they rehydrate, you can feel them, and you'll still feel some little crystals in there. Whereas if you catch them right before that, when they're still a little mushy but beginning to get a little crystals in them, then rehydrate them, and they'll do much better.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, you also have another type of humidification in one of your humidors, don't you? In your little refrigerator, don't you have one of those? I don't know what you even call it. Kind of like a small
gel
version of what they have here.
The one that I started off with, and there was a gel type thing. It was like a little contraption that, just seemed to be a lot more work than I wanted to mess with.
Yeah.
So now that one, I've kind of got the science down on distilled water, and I just have a tray of distilled water. I know exactly how much to put in there to get it right where I want it. That was just some trial and error that I went through, and I figured it all out, and it works great now, and it's so inexpensive to do it that way.
Yeah.
But I don't have a lot of luck with distilled water trays in a sealed humidor where there's not air movement. And I find that is a little bit more, that's where Boveda packs really come in handy.
Absolutely.
And I have a computer fan in mine that sets,
Yeah.
I have one of the timers that turns it on every 15 minutes and it rotates for 15 minutes and then it's off for 15 minutes. Just does that, cycles that 15 minutes.
And that's a great thing if you can do that, if you can have some kind of air movement that doesn't reduce your humidity.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've had a pretty good episode. Where can they find you online?
Any of the social medias, at KP Troubadour or at Kevin Price Band, if you want to see all of our musical adventures that we go on. And I guess, what do we have coming up? Let's see, in September we've got a show at the Blackbird here.
We do.
We've got, matter of fact, this Sunday, if this makes it out before Sunday, I'm playing a little acoustic thing for a veterans thing up in Skytook, Oklahoma. The Gary Sinise Foundation's coming in and putting on this thing, and
Nice.
going to play a little music up there from like 12 to 3. Not a whole lot else. I mean, we got some stuff further down the line, but fall for me is kind of like, we got college football starting, and I go to a lot of games. And
We start preparing for Oktoberfest.
we start getting ready for our Oktoberfest. We got a lot of other things keeping us keeping us busy. But what about you? Where can they find you?
I am CR Parsons Comedy or CR Parsons Comedian on all the social medias. You can find me there. You can also email me at booking@crparsons.com. I do want to mention that September 9th, I will be in Quincy, Illinois. So if you're up there in the Chicagoland area or south of there, closer to Quincy or even close to St. Louis, it's not that far away.
Cool.
So come up and see me. I'll be doing some stand-up comedy with a good friend of mine, Longhorn the Comedian, who I have not gotten to work with in many years. So I'm excited about that one.
That sounds like fun.
It will be.
You know the name of the venue?
Not off the top of my head.
Well, look on your socials.
That's right. Facebook, it'll be on there.
Very cool.
Absolutely. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. We appreciate you guys doing that.
Hit the little bell.
That's right.
To get notifications.
We have also started adding our videos to another platform, and so we're going to continue to look for other platforms to stretch our videos out to. If you have suggestions for platforms that we ought to join to put our videos on, please let us know. Also, if you just want to reach out to us, please comment on the video. We will respond to every comment, even if it's just a like.
Yeah, or if you have cigars you want us to try, whiskeys or something you want us to review, happy to do it. Love to try new stuff.
And don't forget, Cigar Journal for the Working Man on Amazon under CR Parsons. I think that's about it. Yeah. So until next time, stay smoky.